duoed with Martin, who's Mr. Savage, and they won their first tournament back in February 2019, which was the Montana Black, where they won $10,000 each.
To all the people who are listening to the podcast and are not too familiar with the world of Fortnite, do you reckon you could just describe it in a few brief sentences?
Hello and welcome back to Asking for a Friend.
Today we have another very exciting interview for you today.
So Anne, welcome to Asking for a Friend. We're so excited to have you on. How are you feeling today?
No, I'm very good, thank you. Appreciate you asking me on to the podcast. Brilliant, thank you.
Anne is the mother of the world-famous Fortnite gamer mamabenjyfishy and is known as one of the coolest mothers on the internet. Her accomplishments are endless, and her support for both the gaming industry and Benji throughout his career have been amazing. She's a true figurehead for parents whose children are in the gaming industry as it expands to be larger than ever seen before. However, this groovy mum doesn't simply sit on the sidelines and watch all the action. Oh no, she gets involved herself with her various streaming and gaming platforms, to which she has tens of thousands of followers on. So today we are looking at life in the gaming fast lane with Anne herself. Absolutely. Right then, so we'll just get straight into the first section with a few questions. So I guess we should start at the beginning, really. Like at the beginning of your rise to internet popularity, shall we say. So when did all this gaming business start for Benji and eventually yourself?
Well, for Benji, I mean, he's always gamed right from a young age. You know, obviously, he's got an older brother, Charles, who's 7 years older. So therefore, gaming has always been part of the household. We've always had those consoles, the PlayStation, the, Xbox, and then PC, etc. Benji used to play like League of Legends and things. So a lot of those sort of like earlier games. And then Fortnite came out in 2017, I think it was. So obviously he started, I don't think he did the very early seasons. And then it was really when it snowballed was 2 years ago, 2019. So he duoed with Martin, who's Mr. Savage, and they won their first tournament back in February 2019, which was the Montana Black, where they won $10,000 each.
Wow, that's incredible.
So it was quite an incredible moment because I was it was a Sunday night and I'd already gone to bed, and I remember him coming in and saying, yeah, we've won, and they'd won 10,000. It was like, oh my god, really? So it's a bit of a shock to the system. And then they won a couple of other small tournaments after that. And then the issue always was the age limit. So the age limit for all the tournaments was always 16. And then very quickly in March, beginning of March, Epic Games announced the Fortnite World Cup and the fact that they'd actually lowered the age limit to 13.
Yeah.
And with that, things sort of snowballed quite quickly. So Benji was approached by we'd already been approached by Energy already, but we were approached by quite a few other organizations that wanted to sign Benji. And obviously that whole World Cup announcement, it was the biggest tournament ever put on. So that's really what sort of snowballed everything.
Wow, that's amazing though, because it sounds, obviously, with Fortnite being quite a recent game still, only coming out in 2017, like you said, surely his rise to fame was very rapid. With lots of things going on,
it really was. It was very much that February, March in 2019 through to when the World Cup, those first 2 weeks in the World Cup qualifiers. So yeah, very quickly.
Wow. But linking to your popularity and things, so would you say then that there was a specific point in which the gaming industry sort of opened its eyes to see Benji's talent?
Well, it was probably the beginning of the World Cup qualifiers. So obviously there was 10 weeks of qualifying. There was it was both solos and a duos tournament. So you had 5 weeks of solos qualifying and then 5 weeks of duos. With week 1 was the solo, and Benji actually qualified in week 1 for the solos, and then he went on to qualify in week 2 with duos with Martin. So that is what really made the gaming industry sort of sit up and take notice. Him and Stompy were the only 2 players at that point that had double qualified for the World Cup.
Wow.
So they were like the first. So that was sort of quite big at the time.
Yeah. So you mentioned like solos and duos. To all the people who are listening to the podcast and are not too familiar with the world of Fortnite, do you reckon you could just describe it in a few brief sentences?
So Fortnite is what they call a battle royale game, primarily. I mean, it can be played in other, you can play creative and things, but primarily the main game is what they call a battle royale. So therefore you start off with 100 players. So if it was duos, if they were playing as a team as duos, then it would be like 50 duos. If it was playing as trios, it would be 33 trios, etc. But basically it goes for 100 players, and then the idea is that you eliminate the other players or teams, so that you're actually left with one person at the end who claims the victory royale. And the different tournaments have different point systems, so you get points maybe for eliminations, which can be anything from 1 point to say 3 points. It depends on the tournament structure. And then you get placement points. So the idea for the tournament certainly is to get the highest number of points, and they're the ones that are actually then qualify, or win the tournament.
Well, there you have it. To any of you listeners or watchers out there, now, if you're oblivious to Fortnite, now you know what it's about. And you mentioned quite a lot about like the Fortnite World Cup and things. We want to investigate that a little bit more. So how did you and Benji find the overall experience of that?
That was neither of us had been to any sort of lands before. Neither of us had been to New York or anything. So it was quite a huge experience. We were able to fortunately take Charles and Amina with us, which was great. So we did it as a sort of like family experience. So that was brilliant. It was that we went out there beforehand so that Benji could warm up. We also got to meet the Energy players and the team for the first time, as well as lots of other players, because all the pro players were actually staying in the same hotel. So therefore we got to meet them. Because Benji was under 18, I got the opportunity to actually go behind the scenes a little bit, and we were able to go in the player lounge and things like that. So as like a chaperone and whatever. So that was quite cool, because you got to see some of those, stars like Tifu and Ninja and like some down and some of those casters and things. So it was quite a surreal experience. It went very quickly, and it was very, very stressful from a parent watching it. Sort of like you want your child to do well, but obviously that there are so many other players that are out there that are doing anyone could win and things. So but it was good to be able to meet some of the other parents as well, so and talk to them about their experiences. So yeah, it was really good.
Amazing.
So Anne, let's concentrate on yourself as a gamer now. So have you played any video games ever since, well, any time really, and what are your favorites? And
I haven't really played that many video games. So when I was at school, you didn't have video games really. Computers were only just coming in. I used to play, they were mainly text-based games. So I used to play a game by Infocom called Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which I played for quite some time. We did manage to finish it, but it took me months to finish it. And then when Charles was younger, we had the old N64. So we played game called Banjo-Kazooie, which I really enjoyed. But apart from that, I haven't really played any video games at all. And my Fortnite that I started was literally at the beginning of February. So apart from that, nothing at all.
Wow.
That's incredible though, that you have like, you've learned all the knowledge of, you know, like the Fortnite and gaming just through your son.
Yeah, I mean, it's purely when I first started watching his streams, I had no idea what was happening.
The same with my mum.
Absolutely no idea.
She walks in my room and she's like, "What's going on the screen?" You know.
Yeah. You know, I remember watching when Benji qualified for the World Cup week 1. He then went online and did a VOD review of that. You know, went over his gameplay and was showing the audience what he did. And I remember watching it, and he was explaining, you know, he was sort of like building or editing walls. But at the same time, he knew everything that was going on around him, you know, who was where, you know, as well as being able to, you know, change weapons or, you know, eliminate people and things like that. That the amount of things they do and aware of that all happen in literally a millisecond is quite incredible. So that, you know, that sort of like ability to multitask, be aware of all your surroundings, etc., is I still find quite amazing that players do that. But then also watching the official streams was quite good, because you could see sort of like the circle going really small and you could see all the names of the players. So that sort of gave me more of an idea as to what was happening. But I've watched hours and hours and hours. I've watched pretty much every one of Benji's streams and lots of others. So I have, over the course of the last 2 years, sort of understood it a little bit more. Still don't fully, the end game goes really fast for me, but you know, we're sort of understand what's happening.
So you mentioned like there was an official stream. So like when you got to like the big Fortnite World Cup, was it like almost like watching football on Sky Sports, stuff like that? Was it like what it was?
In the audience, it was a little bit difficult because the sound wasn't that brilliant.
Yeah.
So I think from an online perspective, it was much better, because from online you could actually tune into the player they had it very well organized, you know, that you could tune into the individual player. But with the in the actual stadium, the sound was a little bit muffled. It wasn't quite as clear as you could. And where we were sitting as parents, I was based on the opposite side to where Benji was actually sitting. So therefore I couldn't see his screen in front of me or anything. Charles was positioned more in front of him, so I was getting messages from him, but all I could see was his screen moving in a distance. So you could tell whether he was alive or not. But because they were showing all players, it was quite difficult to see exactly where he was.
And your own personal involvement with the online gaming industry has been loved by your fans and many others too, via your many social media outlets and stuff. But we want to know, if there is one, what has been your most memorable moment online as mamabenjyfishy?
Right. I wouldn't say that there have been lots of moments, really. I mean, I think generally it's more the fact that players and also the fans have accepted me, sort of thing, as part of the community. So that has been the overwhelming support that I've had from everyone. If we were to go outside of say online to actually events, one of the most memorable events that I had was when we were at the Australian Open, and Benji was I'd stepped out from the stadium and was going to get something to eat, and I actually got stopped to ask for autographs and photographs, which was quite surreal.
Blimey.
So yeah, that
Wow.
was that was quite surreal, because also I had no idea as to, you know, how to sign my name or something or whatever, and you know, so yeah, that was a first for me. So that was really quite a surreal experience.
Yeah, I can imagine that really like sort of made the whole sort of like fame and popularity side of things seem real.
Yeah, very much. I mean, I know Benji gets it all the time and things, you know, but it was the first time that I'd ever really got asked for an autograph or a photo. So yeah, that was a surreal experience.
When did, like, so you know, you mentioned how Benji sort of grew to fame around the World Cup qualifying times. What was your process of sort of becoming like well known and being a big part of you know, his like
It probably well, no, it was always probably around the World Cup time as well, because Epic Games approached us to do the videos. So there was the player profile videos for both Benji as a solo, and then also Benji and Martin as a duo. And then later on, in about October, November time, they came back out to do stories from the battle bus.
Yeah.
So they flew an entire film crew over to us, and they were with us for several days, filming both the solos and the duos. And then they flew to Oslo to do Martin's, you know, player profile videos. Equally, we also had Grady fly out from the US from Energy, and they did a video about Benji. So I think those videos, because I was being interviewed and they showed me as well, that sort of made people aware of who I was, as opposed to just Benji.
Yeah, I actually went and watched that as well. I remember watching Nick A30, you know, he's a big actually reacting to it, and I was like, it just came on my suggested, and I was like, hang on, this is, you know, and I was, you know, it's incredible, really.
Yeah, I mean, they did an amazing, all those player profiles and the videos they did are incredible. But it's a long filming process. I mean, they were here like five days or something just to do that. So yeah.
And you are by far one of the trendiest and coolest mums that we've ever met. But we want to look at how you view yours and Benji's situation through a mother's eyes. So that being said, did you have a moment of realization as to when you knew that Benji could pursue this Fortnite gaming as a career?
It would probably go back to one of my previous answers, when he actually won that Montana Black and won the $10,000. And obviously then qualifying for the World Cup, he was guaranteed a minimum of $50,000 each, so like $100,000.
Wow.
And in addition, etc., and having the organizations approach us.
Over the last years, stats have shown an increase in participants with the gaming industry, and talent, especially in like the competitive gaming industry, is being found all over the world. Would you say the industry has sort of increased and become more competitive because of like lockdown and people getting into gaming because of lockdown?
Well, yes. I mean, gaming in general I mean, the whole world has gone more online, hasn't it? It's had to, as a result of the lockdown. And so as a result of that, more players are playing and using it as a way to socialize and communicate, you know, with each other. I mean, if you just look in terms of players playing in tournaments, it has increased quite a lot. So if you look at the trio season in October 2019 compared to the trio season in October 2020. So in 2019, there was roughly just under 37,000 players competing in the first week. A year later, there was 186,000 players competing in that first week. And in terms of Europe, if you look at Europe specifically, only because I've got some figures from Fortnite competitive data, Europe had just under 19,000 players, and then the following year it had 77,000 players competing in that first week. So there are far more players playing competitively or trying to play, and obviously Epic Games have got more cash cups and things that are available. So that has increased that competitive side, etc. So I feel it's a lot harder now to actually get noticed, that because literally there are so many players, and also being able to stay at the top for a period of time, sort of, you still got to grind. Benji's playing, at the point where there are big tournaments, like we've just had FNCS, he could be playing 8-10 hours a day to practice, etc. But yes, lockdown has increased probably as well, because everything has gone online, not only just gaming, but also like the schoolwork and everything else. And it's being used as a way to sort of keep in touch with people.
Well, that being said, like, obviously we spoke a lot about Benji today, and Benji's contribution to the gaming industry. And it's truly fantastic what he's done, and inspirational. But we were wondering if you could tell us if you both have any like shared inspiration for your success.
Shared inspiration for Benji, he just wants to be the best. That his goal is to be the number one player, competitive player, etc. So obviously all the other pro players that he chats to and everything, so they would probably be his inspiration, and his, as I say, the goal to be sort of like the top and to try and win an FNCS championship. For me, it's probably, I just enjoy being in touch with the other players and also the parents of the players. So there's a big community between all the parents. In particular, I talk quite often to Johnny, who's Mr. Savage's dad. So I'm in touch with him quite a lot because we're working on some projects together. So, for example, I'm writing a journey book about Benji, which will be out later this year. And then I'm also working on a book with Johnny about what being a pro gamer is all about, and all the aspects. So it's aimed at parents as well as aspiring pro players, to explain all about, how balancing education, the different careers that are out there, the revenue streams, all about the World Cup and different land competitions, not what equipment that Benji and Martin use, etc. So that they're exciting projects that I'm working on. But yes, being able to have that community and talk to the other parents is really good.
Yeah, that's incredible. And now for the final question, it's linking into the same sort of theme here. If you could give, I presume this is coming in more detail in future projects, but just a little bit of advice for parents and gamers who are going into the industry, just one bit of advice, what would you tell the parents and their children as advice?
For parents, there's this whole stigma around gaming. So therefore, I think there is I'm seeing a change, a slight change sort of coming around, so that parents are beginning to understand that there are benefits that children can have from playing gaming. It's not just them sitting on the console for PC for hours and hours. There are skills, there are transferable skills that can be put into future careers. So like all that leadership, the team building, the communication skills. And that's also, there are now esports courses out there. So for example, I'm working with through COPE, which is the Coalition of Parents in Esports, with the British Esports Association, who have teamed up with Pearson. So now you can actually do a BTEC in esports, which they launched last year. So that is really good. I mean, it probably would have been a course that I would have considered Benji doing, if, you know, rather than A levels or something. So that's coming on board, and that's super exciting. And then also there are colleges doing it. So colleges and universities doing it, so you can actually do a good degree in esports and things about the whole production side and everything. So I know a lot of gamers will come on board, or people will start playing game thinking that they want to be a pro gamer. That it's very only the top few actually make it. The you know, that 1% ever make it to become a pro gamer. It's a bit like, you know, if you want to be a professional footballer, or, you know, on the West End stage or something, you know, lots of people are going to try, but you're not always going to make it. But to understand that there's a whole infrastructure around esports. So there are lots of other careers that you can do. You know, you can be content creators, you can do, so you can do the streaming, you can do casting, you can do coaching, but also esports organizations also need other careers, you know, managers, and, you know, people that would do the accounts or social media side. So I think it's to look at, for gaming, certainly for you know, those wanting to get into the esports world, looking at the other careers that are out there as well, and to try and hone your skills. So like, you know, if you do want to be a content creator, go out there and learn how to use Photoshop, learn how to you know, edit your videos and things and whatever, rather than having to rely on other people. And then for the parents, you know, I think you've got to talk to them and explain the opportunities, and maybe show them some of the videos that are out there, and the date and the information that people like COPE or British Esports have got out there for parents.
Mm-hmm.
So that concludes our wonderful interview there with Anne Fish.
Yes, thank you very much for coming on, and yeah,
we hope to have you on again.
Definitely,
it's my pleasure. Yeah,
definitely.
Oh, wicked.
Right, so I've been George.
I've been Will.
and I've been Anne.
And this has been Asking for a Friend. Thank you and goodbye.